Hello, and welcome to the Meditation Center's monthly metaphysical lesson. This month's discussion is called Planting the Seeds. What seeds are you storing instead of planting them? This month's lesson is about planting the seeds of spiritual success by making the best use of what we have and being willing to let go of things that no longer serve our needs. So often you see people holding on to the past, whether it's physical things like old photographs, books, clothing, or other things that take up space in our home, or mental things like beliefs, ideas, and other attachments that take up space in our mind. In order for us to get the most use out of what we have, we must accomplish two things. First, we must appreciate what it is that we have. And second, we must know how to make the best use of them. Sometimes we hold on so tightly to something that's meaningful to us that we forget to use it. Have you ever found an old photograph that a family member had stored away in a box, and now it's been so long that there's no one left who knows who the people are in the pictures? Have you ever found an article of clothing that would be perfect for a special occasion, then you put it away for when that occasion arises? More than likely, you stumble across that same item years later, still hanging in your closet and not doing much more than gathering dust. It might not even fit you anymore, and it's probably out of fashion, so you can't wear it even if it does fit. So what do you do? Or if you're like some folks I know, you might have lots of books, more books than you'll ever read again, but they're meaningful to you, so it's hard to let them go. A friend once told me that when he dies, he wants me to be in charge of his books. But there's one catch. I'm not allowed to give them away. I ask myself, what could I possibly do with hundreds or even 1,000 books that I'd never want to read if I can't give them away? How many times do you hear someone say something that really inspires the people around them, perhaps at church or at a lecture or on TV? You hear everyone talking about how much it meant to them, but then you see them walk out the door, back to their usual lives, quickly forgetting about whatever it was that inspired them so. How do you hold on to that inspiration? This is where our lesson begins, inspired by John chapter 12, verses 20 through 26, as read from the Common English Bible. Some Greeks were among those who had come to worship at the festival. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and made a request. "Sir, we want to see Jesus." Philip told Andrew, and Andrew and Philip told Jesus. Jesus replied, "The time has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. I assure you that unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it can only be a single seed. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their lives will lose them, and those who hate their lives in this world will keep them forever. Whoever serves me must follow me. Wherever I am, there my servant will also be. My Father will honor whoever serves me." Again, that's John chapter 12, verses 20 through 26. This story takes place at a great feast, the same feast which brought Jesus in his triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, the weekend before his crucifixion. Some Greek people hear that Jesus is in town and they want to meet him. They run into a couple of his followers who in turn make the arrangements. Jesus' advice appears to be a cryptic lesson about dead wheat and losing lives. He's referring to his impending death, and the traditional idea is that only through dying can anything meaningful come out of his life. If you ask me, it's kind of melodramatic, but I get the idea. But the message is so much more when you look at it metaphysically. Each person, place, and situation in the Bible represents an aspect of ourselves and our own consciousness. As we explore this story's spiritual symbolism, a much deeper and meaningful lesson emerges. Let's look at all the elements of the story with some help from Charles Fillmore's Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. The feast represents the laying out of divine potentialities, the feast of knowledge, which reveals our inner truth. The Greeks represent intellectual reasoning and thought. interpreting ideas so that they make sense to both science and religion. Philip represents the human faculty of power. Through love, we master the vital forces of life. Bethsaida, the town where Philip lives, means house of fishing or places of nets, the place in our consciousness where we continually fish or search for new ideas and greater understanding of things both physical and spiritual. Andrew represents the human faculty of mind, the power of thought and understanding that manifests when we're open to new ideas. Jesus represents our spiritual awakening, when our understanding rises above physical things and opens the door to greater understanding and acceptance of spiritual truth. Son of Man is a Near Eastern expression to show reverence to someone deserving of respect. Like Jesus, we're all the Son of Man when we allow our spiritual awakening to express. Jerusalem is the place of peace in our consciousness. As you can see, each person and place represents an aspect of ourselves, and in this case, deals almost entirely with seeking and fulfilling universal truth through the desire of the Greeks, the facilitation of the disciples, and the lessons of Jesus. Now let's take a look at the first part of the statement that Jesus makes. I assure you that unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it can only be a single seed. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. A grain of wheat is just a seed that falls from a plant. If it doesn't germinate in the ground, it remains a seed forever. Grains of viable wheat have been found buried in Egyptian tombs, which still have the potential to grow into new plants thousands of years later. A grain of wheat does not accomplish anything until it dies and falls into the ground, where it can reach the nutrients it needs to flourish and multiply. Spiritually, this is where we start making a connection to the clothing that we set aside for just the right occasion, and piles of old books and photographs that we don't look at, or outdated ideas that no longer serve their purpose. Every one of these things is a grain of wheat, intended to be planted. But what comes of them when we store them away? They're just seeds serving little purpose. The second part of Jesus' advice gives us motivation, though it's so subtle you might not even notice it at first. He says, "Those who love their lives will lose them, and those who hate their lives in this world will keep them forever." If we hold on too tightly to the things that give us meaning in our life, we sometimes hold back the benefit of enjoyment of those things, or the joy that someone else could be sharing with us as we put them to good use. An old dress in a dark closet offers no beauty. A book that is never read will never inspire another mind. A new idea that isn't remembered and used becomes a vague and meaningless memory. We'll wrap up the rest of his lesson in just a moment, but first, let's go back and look how this story represents us personally. A bounty of new and inspiring ideas, represented by the feast, draws forth our spiritual awakening, represented by Jesus, and stimulates our intellect in our quest for understanding, represented by the Greeks. In order to reach that state of awakening, we must have the power to discern truth, Philip, born from a place of our consciousness that wants to learn, Bethsaida, and assisted by the power of the mind, Andrew, to make sense of the ideas being presented to us. When we go into meditation, that place of peace in our consciousness, Jerusalem, these new ideas, the truth of spiritual awakening, such as those taught by Jesus, is revealed. Now that we see what the intent of the story is, let's go back and review Jesus' final sentences, which reveal how to do this. Whoever serves me must follow me. Wherever I am, there my servant will also be. My Father will honor whoever serves me. This statement isn't about having devotion to Jesus. It's about having appreciation for what Jesus taught and putting it to good use, just like those old pictures, clothes, books, and ideas. Serving our spiritual awakening means having dedication to our understanding and putting our spiritual knowledge to good use. It means that learning about God on Sunday isn't enough. That knowledge can only serve its purpose if it's put into use every day. Wherever I am means whenever we're focused on spiritual truth. And my servant will also be means we will be in the best state of mind to live that truth. My Father will honor whoever serves me means that when we're focused on universal truth, we get the most benefit from being part of that universe. This brings to mind a legend that someone once shared with me. I don't remember where it came from, but the story is fitting. A man has brought some land and is excited about the idea of becoming a farmer, with a dream of planting and reaping his crops. He faithfully goes out to the field and tills the land. Then he plants the seed, gently covering the rows. He goes home and prays to God to allow his crop to flourish and grow. Each day, he goes out to the field to see if there's been any change and to check for weeds. Each night, he prays again. After a few weeks, he starts realizing that nothing is happening. No sign of life, no sign of growth. He pleads to God to make the crops grow, but still nothing. In frustration, he contacts a neighbor whose crops are now lush and green in the neighboring field to see what might have gone wrong. The other farmer accompanies him back to the dry brown field and asks him, "How often do you irrigate?" Wow, how easy it was to lose sight of something so simple yet so important. We can pray to God and beg and plead all we want, but if we aren't doing our part to facilitate what we want to accomplish, we might end up staring at a dry, barren field. This lesson is about understanding the laws of nature and living in accordance with them. It's about taking those precious treasures that we collect along the way and learning to use them where they have the most uplifting impact on our lives and those around us, instead of stashing them away in our consciousness. Take that old photo album from the attic and share the love. Scan the photographs and share them with your family and friends so that everyone can appreciate them and learn about their heritage. They don't mean anything if no one knows they exist. When you buy a new outfit, wear it. You can't enjoy a fabulous outfit as long as it's hanging in the back of your closet, and no one else will enjoy it either. When it's outgrown its usefulness to you, give it to someone else, either someone you know or through a donation center, so the enjoyment can continue to grow long after it has served your needs. When you're finished reading a book, give it to someone else to share the knowledge and enjoyment that you got out of it. Or if it's something you really want to read again, lend it to a friend to keep that cycle of giving and sharing alive. The Friends of the Library is a great place to share old books, or you can sell them on eBay to make some extra spending cash. Those old books will find new life in someone else's hands, doing a lot more work than they would gathering dust on a bookshelf. And when someone shares an idea that inspires you, use it. Don't just file it away to be forgotten. Spend some time contemplating on the ideas and how they can help make your life better. And then, make your life better. Share the idea with others who will appreciate them. Ideas are the fuel of change. Not much change can happen if the ideas are lost to the past in someone's memory. This is what the short tale about an interaction thousands of years ago really means to us today. It usually gets lost among the celebratory energy of Palm Sunday and the solemnity of Good Friday, but that makes it no less valuable. When you plant the seed of an idea, whether it's planning for a special event, or deciding to expand your horizons, or to learn about new ideas that you've never considered before, plan for an abundant crop. Don't allow the seed to dry out and die from selfish neglect. Plant it, tend to it, water it, and nurture it, and watch it grow into something new, which nourishes you with satisfaction and multiplies to spread nourishment of pleasure to others in ways that you've never imagined. Many blessings. Find additional metaphysical lessons and meditation ideas on our website at www.meditatewnc.org. Thank you for joining us.